An intellectual carrot, the mind boggles.
You see? You see? You're stupid minds. Stupid! Stupid!
Earth has had Santa Claus long enough. We will bring him to Mars.
I've been afraid a lot of times in my life, but I didn't know the real meaning of fear until I had kissed Becky.
One thing will be clear. It's not for man to interfere in the ways of God.
It's alive. Oh, it's alive. It's alive. It's alive.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Earth vs. Soup, episode 113. I'm Aaron Pollier.
And I'm Darlene.
And we found a film today, and I will admit that I don't remember seeing this film ever before.
No. Or I would have remembered Sutan.
Sutan, yeah. And I would have remembered this film because of the plot. So I'm actually surprised this was never shown on WGN in Chicago. I'm surprised that my father didn't show it to me along with Day the Earth Stood Still and War of the Worlds, because believe it or not, folks, while we're talking about it, it's going to be very easy to figure out that we loved this movie. This is one of those, I would say,
thought-provoking.
It's incredibly thought-provoking. It is one of the top 3 found gems that we have never seen before coming into Earth vs. Soup, that we have found for Earth vs. Soup, along with Monolith Monsters, those kinds of movies that we're just completely shocked at how good they are. This movie is The 27th Day from 1957.
It's based on the novel, The 27th Day, that was written a year before that.
Yes. Now, the author of the book is the same as the screenwriter for this movie, and it's John Mantley. Right after watching this movie, I have ordered the actual novel because the movie because we ended up seeing this on YouTube for free, but I know it's also on Tubi, it's on Amazon Prime, and the reason I chose it was because I kept seeing it pop up as a recommended film. You can see this in a whole bunch of different places. Put down what you're doing, go watch it. But we're going to talk about the plot. And so before we get into the plot, if you're really interested in why this is a good film, this is all now spoilers. I don't know when we're going to go into our general thoughts about the movie. But I mean, again, this is from 1957. How many years has it been? It's been 65 years. Yeah. I mean, 65-year-old movie, 65-year-old novel, 66-year-old novel. I don't think knowing everything about the plot spoils it, really. Because a lot of what this movie, I think, makes this movie is the thoughts that you have with it. Am I correct, Darlene?
Yes. And I want to put out to everybody, there is stock footage in this.
There is? Okay. I know
Earth versus the flying saucer.
No. That's not stock footage. It's a reused special effect. And normally I would ding a film by going, oh, that doesn't work. You shouldn't reuse a special effect. Here's the thing. The special effect that is reused in this movie is the flying saucer streaking through the sky for a half second. And I'm like, okay, you know what? I guarantee you this movie
I wasn't pinging it.
No, normally I bitch about it. But in this case, it's so brief, and you didn't even need to show the flying saucer in this movie. That at the very least, they put it in. It wasn't offensive. We immediately recognized it as Earth versus the Flying Saucer because you can immediately recognize it as a Ray Harryhausen special effect. And Ray Harryhausen, even though he didn't like Earth versus the Flying Saucer, he thought it was his weakest movie, the special effects in it are still really good. So, I mean, a half second of that is fine. But that's all you need to see about this. This movie is not about special effects. This movie is not about alien invasion, even though it seemingly is. It is not about monsters attacking and destroying the Earth. This is about people making decisions and thinking about the greater good. And by the end of the film, I had tears in my eyes because we'll get to it, I guess. This is a stunning film. Go ahead.
I want to say what it starts as, and you think that it's useless. It starts with Harry is the guy's name.
Okay.
Is painting a picture of the ocean, and then Eve comes out.
A woman named Eve, played by Valerie French,
comes out, and they're in Cromwell coastline.
Yes.
A shadow falls over her that looks like a man.
Eve Wingate, you are to come with me. Right? That's what he says?
Yeah.
Now, the voice is somebody that is only referred to as, and even by himself as, the alien. He says, my name is not important. My position is not important. Including, anything about me is not important. The only thing you have to do is refer to me as the alien. The alien is played by Arnold Moss, who is a stunning actor. Even in this, like the little bits that he plays, it's mostly just his voice, because he makes broadcasts through this movie. We see him in one of these first scenes, and we see him kind of in shadow picking people up. But you may know Arnold Moss. Well, I would know Arnold Moss from being Kodos from Star Trek: The Original Series.
What episode?
Whatever the name it is. I always screw up the name of it.
He tells this.
Yeah, I know. I always screw up the name of it. It's The Conscience of the King. It's The Conscience of the King. I always start calling it The Conscience of Kodos, but it's not. It's Conscience of the King. And I have no idea why. But the man has a pedigree of excellent acting. And it's kind of surprising that he pops up in this as almost a bit part. But it's not. Everything that character the alien does in this movie impacts the characters in such a way. He has a
Shakespearean kind of way of acting, though.
Oh, and I also should apologize while we talk about the plot. We're probably going to end up stopping a lot of times and going, okay, I want to talk about this part a little more because it's really good. See, that's what happens when you have a film that not only is deep, that you need to talk about it right there, but it's also thought-provoking and meaningful.
Like there's Henry there, and you think he's there as he is a Chekhov's gun. He comes in later, and it's not him in the movie, it's him being talked about. Did you miss that one?
No, I didn't. That on the radio later on?
Yes.
Yeah, I know that. There's a reason. So Eve Wingate, played by Valerie French, is picked up by Eve Wingate. It is time to come with me. Stand up, and there's like a flash of light. She disappears. And I'm like, okay. My first thought was, okay, so this is like an alien abduction movie. Little did I know that it is. It isn't. Like,
the next one is Mr. Clark.
Mr. Clark, Jonathan Clark, played by our loving actor that we love, Gene Barry, who was Dr. Clayton Forrester in War of the Worlds.
He's a American reporter in L.A.
Yes, he is. And again, the voice of Arnold Moss as the alien. Jonathan Clark, it is time for you to come with me. And flash of light. He's gone.
Then you go and see a war going on in China.
Okay. It is likely China. It is like, I would assume it is. But again, we're not really given
where these are
much information. No, they do say it later on, but I didn't catch it. Because they said it is Sutan from...
I remember her name.
It is from... She's from like a such and such province. So, and I apologize, I did not catch it.
It's definitely a revolutionary war.
Yeah, it might be China. It's likely China.
Somebody that got killed. She comes out of a house that's on fire.
Yeah,
and kneels down beside this dead person and is crying, and all of a sudden, come with me.
Yes. Absolutely.
Then we go to a German planetarium, or is it a... Because I got confused with the matte painting that's on the window.
It's a planetarium, but it's I think it's a U.S. planetarium. It just
Well, no, he says he has to go visit
okay.
America.
You misunderstood what I was saying. He is in Germany, but the matte painting behind him, I think, is a U.S. observatory. Continue.
Professor Breacham. How do you pronounce that? Klaus Breachner.
It is
Breachner.
Betchner.
Betchner. He's getting ready to go on a visit to America.
Yes.
And he's actually talking to another person, and he leaves. There's these little skits that are just give you a lot of information about some of the characters. Okay? And that's why I'm pointing out.
And he's approached outside.
And he's approached outside. He says, I'm sorry that I'm going to interrupt your visit to America.
Yeah, I apologize, but you need to come with me. And it's
the longest a talk that you have for him taking all these people.
And yes, it is. And then we get introduced to our last person that he takes, who is a Russian named Ivan Godofsky. Am I? I'm pretty sure. Yeah, it's Godofsky. Godofsky. And
from guard duty.
Yeah, he is on guard duty, and I have to say that one of the things I will gripe about, it is clearly the Soviet Union. They never really refer to it where Godofsky is taken or his government as the Soviet Union.
Besides
it's behind the Iron Curtain. But it is supposed to be the Soviet Union, and the uniforms don't completely jive with what we should see at the time. And
I think they did that deliberately, though.
I think so too. So anyway, it's the one time I would go, oh man, I don't think they did a really good job on that. But I don't know the budget of this movie. I have no idea what the budget is.
I didn't get that either.
All I know is that the budget was properly spent on good writing and good acting. That's all. So you know what? I'm willing to overlook a couple uniform issues or set issues because the plot is so damn good. So let's keep going though. All of our characters have been taken, and they all wake up inside a chamber that is a futuristic chamber. They're all in seats. It's strangely lit. They start kind of questioning each other, and then we get introduced to the alien who comes in and has that whole spiel of, hey, you don't need to talk to me about it. Call me anything else besides the alien. He's some of the characters are concerned about being missed on Earth. Like, hey, I was gonna catch a plane to America for my conference, or so and so was expecting me. My boyfriend in the car on the coast. He's waiting for me. Like, we were about to leave, and the alien says, and this is a little bit of bad science. He says, basically that since they're traveling at close to the speed of light, time has stopped for the rest of the world. And I'm like, no, that's not how it works. It's actually backwards. If they were traveling close to the speed of light, time for them would effectively be slowed to near zero, and the universe would be continuing on at their own rate. So basically, they wouldn't be aging, but the rest of the universe would be continuing to tick away. So therefore, however long they spent in there, if they were traveling at close to the speed of light, days or weeks could have passed on Earth.
Ivan, before he gets picked up, shoots the guy.
He fires one shot. I think it's one shot. And I can't even tell the gun. It was a very strange looking gun. I didn't really look it up because I never really got a really good look at it.
It looked like a toy gun.
I didn't think it looked like a toy gun. But anyway,
but
he says, don't worry, no one's going to miss you. Time has effectively stopped. And I said, yeah, bad science. But they'll be returned to Earth before anyone misses them. And he says, look, I'm going to help humanity survive. If I am coming from a planet that our sun is going to nova in 35 days. Yeah, it's 35 days.
Yes.
And we are looking for a new world to inhabit. I go, oh God, here we go, an alien invasion movie. And he says, but our moral philosophy prevents us from attacking other sentient life forms. We've been watching Earth for a long, long time. I'm not exactly quoting this movie. I'm trying to sum it up because the speech is really good by Arnold Moss as the alien. He basically says, look, humanity, we've been watching you for a long time. You're dicks. You've been trying to kill yourselves. And
now
guess what?
Created the nuclear bomb.
You have the hydrogen bomb. And we think it is a crime against yourself and your planet to be doing what you are doing. That if you decide to kill yourselves, you are going to wreck your planet. And life is the most precious thing in the universe. So we're going to help you. We're going to give each one of you a weapon. And this weapon is like a round container that contains 3 cylinders, small little cylinders. And they cannot be opened unless the specific person who it is given to wills it open. And then you have to speak. You have to like pull a pin out of the cylinder and speak to it.
But it don't has to be.
It doesn't have to be you.
At that point.
Anyone can use it once the box is opened. And he says, these weapons are the most powerful weapon your species has ever encountered. If they are used, everything within a diameter of 3,000 kilometers.
Miles.
It's not miles. I thought it was kilometers. Will be killed. But only humans. Everything else on Earth, animals, plants, buildings, everything else will be perfectly fine. It only kills humans. You are at a crossroads of your development. You either need to save yourselves or wipe yourselves out.
And he says life and death.
Yeah, I'm giving you the choice of life and death, not life or death. And this comes into play later on, and it's a really subtle nod. And here's the thing, it's because the alien, while the alien is trying to push humanity in a certain direction, the alien is also unable to actively manipulate the humans and tell them exactly what he's trying to do. And it's mainly because the whole point of this movie is humanity freaking growing up. And this is why I had tears in my eyes at the end of the movie. So again, I'm not going to do justice to Arnold Moss as the alien. He gives these people their weapons, and he says, hey, look, I'm going to drop you back off on Earth.
Exactly where you were at the exact same time.
But if these weapons are not used in 27 days, they will all become inert. If you die, the weapons inside become inert for those weapons that you had. So if by the end of 27 days, you will make the choice whether humanity is a mature species or if we have a planet that we can settle on. Our species can settle on. And you think, oh my God, this guy is like, is he hoping that humanity wipes themselves out because they do have this philosophy of not attacking other sentient life or something?
Or is he manipulating his... And I got the opinion at this point that it was manipulating the humans to kill themselves off.
And see, this, but my thoughts about the movie started changing during that scene. Because I thought, okay, wait a second. This is not what anyone thinks it is. I think this, I didn't know exactly what it was going to be, but I thought that this alien wasn't trying to kill everyone. I did think that the weapons were actually weapons, but I thought, no, I think he's trying to do it to prove a point. And he is, but it's way different than that. Like, I didn't really call the film at all. And I got 80% of the way there. I had like 80%
Okay,
of the.
let's
All right,
keep going.
anyway. So before they're put down, the alien leaves to go back, I guess, to the cockpit. And we have Eve Wingate talking to Jonathan Clark. And she's like, "Where are you from?" And he says, I'm a reporter. I'm Jonathan Clark. I work in LA. And she says, "I'm Eve Wingate. I live in Cornwall in England, and I'll contact you after we're down." Okay, so everyone is dropped back off. Who is the first person that we actually see
Eve.
back on Earth? Is it Eve? So Eve has this weapon in her hand. It's this clear plastic, spherical-ish case that you can see the three things in it.
The 3 capsules.
Her boyfriend is packing up into this beautiful old car. Didn't look it up, don't care. And he watches her go right out to the edge of the ocean, look at this pod, and she just throws it into the ocean. And I said, that's the right freaking answer. That's the right answer, Eve. Good job. You are a mature human being.
The next one is how I would have thought to doing it.
Really? Which I thought was goddamn grim.
It was grim. Say Sue Tan, she's in a
Excuse Darlene for her constant throat issues. Sue Tan, by the way, is not credited in the movie, believe it or not, because she's a bit part.
Yeah.
Is Maria McClay, who's actually was born in the Philippines. I actually had to kind of figure out who the heck she was. But she actually has like a modest TV repertoire. Anyway, Sue Tan pops up, and she's back in front of her burned out house in the middle of this war zone.
Of that person that died.
In front of that person
and
who
she
died.
goes back into the house that is burning.
Yeah, well, at the very least, it's smoking. I don't think it's actively on fire anymore.
No, when you go inside, it's on fire.
Okay.
And she kneels in front of a Buddha.
Okay.
And she commits
she commits suicide somehow. They don't focus on.
Well,
they don't focus on like what she really stabs herself with, how badly she does it. Anyway, we know that she kills herself because she puts the weapon in front of the Buddha statue, and kills herself.
It goes like,
and again, I apologize.
The capsules shatter or something.
I apologize if it is not a Buddha statue. It's what we just immediately thought of because we're not like we're not that religiously educated in that in the Eastern religions. So I apologize if it isn't, but it looks like it is an Eastern style Buddha-ish statue. Anyway, she kills herself. The weapons disintegrate inside the pod. And I was like, holy crap. But in the end, I kind of understood why she did it. It wasn't the same reason as Eve. See, Eve threw the things away because she didn't want to have
the responsibility.
No, it wasn't the responsibility. She didn't want to have that power. Because the responsibility, if she didn't want the responsibility, she wouldn't have actually gone to find Jonathan Clark later on.
Yeah,
she does have responsibility with all this. What Sue Tan, I think, and
well, she was in the middle of a war, and she knew that the people around her would have used it for war.
I don't think that's the case.
And
I appreciate your opinion on it,
I think
though.
that she feels like she would have been too weak of will to fight them.
Okay, that's your opinion, right?
Yeah.
I have a different thought on this. I think her whole family had been killed. That was her home. That's why she went back in. That's why the person who was laying outside she was weeping over at the beginning, her whole family had been killed. She was already suicidal, and now she's given the power to kill all the people that hurt her.
Yes.
And she realizes that she can't do that to another mother. And she ends it. Like, she doesn't want to suddenly become the monster that she just saw rampage through her village.
Because
Like,
I actually think she does pray before.
she does. I think it's praying for her soul of some way. Like, I am my soul isn't strong enough to not become this monster, and I don't want to be this monster.
So we have
two different opinions on why she does this.
Same reason, though.
Maybe, but I think it's a slightly different approach to why. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Again, like we said, guys, this film produces a lot of thought in us. Like, we paused this movie a lot and talked. And to me, that is the sign of good science fiction, where I'm going to get, when I get tears in my eyes about certain things, or Darlene, you go, oh, wait a second, I just thought about this. What's the consequences to this, et cetera, et cetera.
My notes right here are kind of shifty with the after the German, but before. Well, anyway, I'm going to ask you a question after the
okay,
German.
so we end up getting, well, the German comes to the United States for this conference. German
Yes,
professor,
but
the professor Klaus Beckner.
He does open it before he
Open
opens
what?
He opens the capsule and looks at it.
He opens the case. I guess I didn't
Yes.
see him opening the case.
Yeah, he opened the case right as he was there, and then he closes it, and then we see him in America.
Okay, that's fine. So that was very brief. I was probably writing down some notes or something when that happened. So what happens is Eve calls Jonathan Clark.
That's the part that I was wondering when it happened first.
It's like
'Cause I
right
have-
after. It's right after they get back, because she gets back home from the beach and she says, "I'm coming to LA." And he's like, "How did you get a hold of me?" And she's like, "You told me who you were and what city you worked in. It wasn't that hard to find the reporter."
Jonathan Clark.
Yeah, Jonathan Clark in LA. And he's like, "Where did we meet?" And she goes, "You know where we met," or something like that. And he's like, "Okay."
And he tries to stop her, but
You don't need to. Yeah.
She clicks up the phone and goes.
Yeah, she says, I already have a train to London and a plane ticket. Goodbye. Or like, yeah, and she just hangs up. I have to go. Click. So during this time, while Eve is basically in the air flying from London to LA, probably with a stop in New York or something, I don't know. It's immaterial to the plot, but I actually thought about that for whatever reason.
Yeah, because
that would be a really long flight. That would be.
She won't, because when she comes off the phone, I go, she won't know about the
exactly,
transmission. Because
while she's in the air, what's coming across is that obviously the professor hasn't said anything. Victor, it's Victor, whatever. No, Ivan Godofsky. When he gets dropped back off, he's running from an unseen force. It's like night somewhere, likely in Moscow, and like a spotlight goes on him because he's running, and the voice, like from off camera, says, "Where are you running to? Or what are you running from?" And it's kind of like with a smirk in the voice, and you realize, oh crap, man, there's going to be some evil crap that happens in this film. And yeah, there is. But so we know that Ivan was like trying to run, and I immediately thought, oh my God, Darlene, Ivan's going to be a good guy in this movie. Here's this typical like low-ranking private Soviet soldier.
there you find out he's private because...
Well, we knew right when he was taken because he has no stripes on his shoulder boards. Ha ha ha. Just the World War II reenacting comes into play because he's the same rank as I am and World War II which is funny. I always like playing off that I'm like 45 and a buck private. Well, why is that? There's a story behind it. Anyway, but yeah, he's a young guy, I guess, and he was running. He gets caught. But we go to... We also understand that... I'm sorry, I'm kind of jumping around here. Jonathan and Eve and the professor have said nothing about this UFO trip. No one knows about it. Obviously, the Soviets probably now know that something's happened because they captured Ivan. But Jonathan, he's sitting in like a restaurant, and the TV on the wall goes on the fritz.
He orders food.
Yeah, he orders food. He wants like a steak or something like that. And he orders food, the TV goes on the fritz, and then all of a sudden the alien comes on the screen and he goes, "People of Earth."
And we find it's supposed to be a 10-minute
Transmission.
interruption of all communication.
All communication.
Said by the FCC.
He tells humanity that 5 humans that he names and gives the location of have important information for the human race, that they have basically a very powerful device of some sort or another. Okay. And Jonathan goes, "Oh crap," kind of stands up, looks around, puts on his hat, and walks calmly out of the freaking restaurant. But here's the thing. Out on the street somewhere nearby, we see that the professor has seen this transmission, and the professor just walks out in the traffic and gets hit by a car. And I thought he deliberately walked out into traffic to get hit by a car in a really good stunt, because the stunt actor or whatever looks like he honestly just got missed by one car. And obviously this isn't CGI. This is 1957. It was a really good stunt because that stunt actor, the stuntman, did not flinch at all from that big American car streaking past him at like 20-something miles an hour, like an inch away from him. That first car that missed him.
And he made it look like he went into a trance and just started walking across the...
Well, yeah, I think it was because he's like, I can't ever hide this now. I have to just die. Because he knows that if you die, the weapons will deactivate. So he walks out in traffic, gets hit by a car, and goes into a coma. Okay. We then go a few more hours.
We don't know whether he went until a little bit later.
Yeah, he's just struck, and yeah, but he is in a coma. I'm just going to go with it because I don't want to sit here and harp on the plot for an hour and a half with every little detail.
There is a lot of details.
There's lots of details.
Even if you're listening to us,
we are passing over a lot of things.
You need to pay attention to this movie.
Yeah.
And it will be reason why we got the DVD with it on it.
We're going to rewatch it a few times.
We're probably going to rewatch it just to see the little details that we missed. Like Aaron missed the fact that the German opened up the...
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we then go to like LA's airport, and we end up seeing Jonathan, who has now shaved his mustache, and now he looks just like Dr. Clayton Forrester from War of the Worlds. He ends up picking up Eve. Correct, Darlene?
Yeah, well, she comes out and he nabs her because there's these papers that are being talked to. People are talking about the interruption.
Yeah.
And Aaron goes, "Oh my God, her passport's she's not gonna be able to check out without being captured."
Yeah, because everyone knows these 5 people's names.
Jonathan Clark nabs her
somehow. Like
he's in a telephone booth or something.
Yeah, but I think passport control and obviously airport security is a very different thing in 1957 compared to today.
It was freaking different in 1980s.
I know it was. Well, even on my first trip to Europe in 1992, going to Russia, it was very different. I mean, very different world. Anyway, but she gets off this plane, and yeah, he's able to grab her and gets her into a cab where he's not being an idiot. He's not an idiot. Like, the cabbie might be listening in. They're all pretty much wanted people by the governments of the world, right? So I think she has like a radio, like a hand radio. That's what he has. He goes, "Does this work?" And she's like, "Yeah." And he turns on the radio really loud and then kind of talks quietly to her, so the cabbie in the front can't really hear. And
there's a neat little comment about music there.
Yeah, what kind of music is this? Rock and roll? Well, it's a music of some sort, I guess. Yeah, and okay, I'm down with that. He gets to the airport, picks her up, blah 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 blah. We see in the hospital that government agents of the United States have this German professor's weapon. They're unable to open it. He is still unconscious. Back in Soviet Russia, we have Ivan has been called to meet with a general. And the general, he's referred to as the general in the credits. Am I correct on that?
Yes.
Like the Soviet general played by Stefan Schnabel. He is supposed to be a Stalin-esque figure, I guess. He's supposed to be the actual leader of the Soviet Union in this, but they just refer to him as General so-and-so. He is in this meeting, and he's actually trying to be like somewhat charming to Ivan. He tries to Ivan tries to lie to the general about what this thing is. Ivan basically goes on to explain that yes, he did not say anything. He ran away because he fired his gun and everyone heard it right before he was taken. But no one would believe him if he said he was taken by a flying saucer. And the general's like, well, we heard the transmission from the alien, and now
you're the first.
Yeah, you are the first of our country to ever go into space and to be in contact with an alien. You're a hero. And I'm like, okay, that's actually something that probably would be a thing. But Ivan lies about what this device is. He says I don't know what it is. And it is a lie. He doesn't know what it is. He just knows that it's important and that the alien didn't talk about everything. So he's trying to lie to the general. He comes across as being deceitful a bit, not like super deceitful. And when he goes, okay, we'll talk again later.
Because the actor actually sits there and with the eyes rolls it up and back and forth.
Okay, I totally understand that though. And this is good acting. It's good acting, but it's also good situational awareness for the political issues of the day. Like, Stalin's dead at this point.
Is he?
I think he is.
I
now I'm gonna have to look it up.
Died this year.
I think I'm gonna have to now look it up while we're
Was it 52
recording.
or?
We're gonna have to look it up while we record. 53. He died in 53. Yeah, of course. So, yes, he is dead by now. But this character is supposed to be something like Stalin, that everyone is terrified of this guy. And so Ivan, being a lowly private, being in the presence of a Stalin-esque figure, and the Stalin-esque figure is being nice to you,
you're creeped out.
You're going to be scared. You're going to be scared for your life because you don't know exactly what he wants. So him moving his eyes around or trying to be deceitful isn't necessarily a wrong reaction, because you're likely thinking about what you should be saying to him to make him happy. I thought it was very good acting. FYI, everyone in this freaking film, top-notch acting. So let me get to my next page of notes. John and Eve, back in the United States, John and Eve decide, screw this, we're going to hide out for this entire 27 days. If we just wait this 27 days out, no one gets to use the weapons.
And it'll become inert.
It'll all become inert. All we have to do is hide. And at this point, everyone knows that there's two sets of devices behind the Iron Curtain. So there's the one that Ivan had and the one that Sue I have to look at her name again. I'm sorry.
Sue Tan.
The one that Sue Tan had. Now, we know as viewers, Sue Tan's 3 weapons are gone. They're all out of the picture because they disintegrated. But Ivan's are there. That means
it comes in play, though.
It does come into play later on.
The Sue Tan's.
Oh, yeah. It's every, like, you think Sue Tan is just, her death is kind of meaningless because she does have kind of a bit part, but her death actually has ramifications throughout the entire film, right? Like, yes. It is important.
Everything has its place. Even Harry the painter,
the boyfriend,
because that comes in play
pretty quick
on this.
I think it's actually in the next scene. So John and Eve, they decide they're going to hide out, and John knows a place that isn't being used for the next month, and it's a horse racing track that he has been to many times.
What did he say? My hours for reporter was wasted here, and my money was.
Yeah, I spent more time and hours here, like reporting, and then spending all my pay on betting on horses, but it's not being used. So they go into like a jockey's I don't know. I can't really say it's a room. It looks like it's a part of the stables, but it has like beds in it.
It has beds in it, so I would assume it was the jockeys'
Quarters of some
quarters for.
I don't know. It's actually pretty nice for like a
They
racetrack stable looking barn thing.
It actually has locked
Gates.
No, not the locked gates. The actual cabinets are fenced in so you can see what's inside it.
Yeah, they're metal cabinets.
They're locked.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess there is stuff there for personal possessions. Anyway, the problem is that there's a guard that drives around in a Willis Jeep.
And key cards it.
Yeah, well, we've talked about it. Remember in the Wasp Woman, I think it's Wasp Woman, that there's the security guard that has to turn this key in a box. And you're like, well, what the hell is he doing? What's that box for? And I said, well, that's you have to turn the key every specific amount of time to prove that you've been there on your rounds. It's a way to ensure that your patrols are actually going on. It's actually very, very smart to do, especially if you're the only person around and no one can really check up on you to see if you're doing your job. All you have to do is look at that key clicker to see if somebody has actually been there.
It's like the guards today would have a key card.
Yeah, and they would swipe it.
That swipes a place to allow them to know that they've.
So the security guard is driving around in a Willis Jeep, and every hour he has to basically drive past this one place they're hiding. And I guess it is the best place that they can hide because it has beds, it has a light, it has a little bit of privacy.
And you, because the shutters in that are closed, they can have the light on. They
shut it off just to make sure, though, which is a good little piece of detail, I think. Like,
they turned off the radio as they were listening.
Yeah, even though that, like, the Jeep's engine is really rattling, even though I thought that was a good touch. Like, why take the risk? I like, good job. You're that's an attention to detail. That shows that they're actually concerned about hiding. And it's not just, oh, it's a movie, we don't care about that. It's, we care about this detail. So it turns out we're at 25 days until the time is when these weapons go away. And the public now knows these devices are weapons because I guess reports out of the Soviet Union have finally leaked.
This is where you have the one from Sutan come in play.
Almost, but on the radio we also hear about Eve's boyfriend saying that he saw her, and this is where
you're listening to what Jonathan, Clark, and Eve
are listening on the radio. They have like a little portable. It's Eve's portable radio, and yeah, the Eve's boyfriend says that he saw her toss something into the ocean. And since we now know that she had been given a weapon by the aliens, there is panic that it could be a mine and that, like, there's an evacuation from the area because who knows what that is. And now everyone is trying to look for Eve to question her on what this weapon is.
And I could see them scouting the coastline for this thing.
And this is where I said, Eve, I love you. You are a fantastic person for just throwing the thing away.
And she gets slammed by Jonathan about a few times about throwing it into the sea.
I don't think he does that too. I don't think it's a negative thing. He's just like, you should have kept it and just decided not to use it, like me, because that means anyone can pick it up. And then once they capture you, I mean, I guess it really makes no difference. I just appreciate the fact I appreciate the fact that Eve threw it into the ocean. Now, knowing that everyone knows where she threw it into the ocean because the boyfriend was there, it is a small thing. It fits into your hand. It means it theoretically could be found. It's not like it is 100 yards out into the ocean in like a 1 square mile area that you have to take a submarine down. It's literally within arm's throwing distance of the rocks at a popular beach.
But she also put herself how many miles? 5,000 miles away from where she was.
I understand why she did it. I'm not complaining about it. I'm saying, like, it could theoretically be found. It could, theoretically.
And this is the 1950s. It would take them a while to figure out that she flew to LA.
Oh, I don't think so at all.
You
Because
don't
the
think so?
boyfriend probably had to drive her to the train station at the very least, and they could have backtracked her passport. They know she's in the United States. They know she's at least in the LA area that she flew in. Or that she might have actually flown in to like New York as a stopover. So she's in the US somewhere. There's no way that they wouldn't know. Regardless, let's go on. So the Soviets have been trying to open the box and failing, and they've been quote unquote questioning Ivan. And the questioning of Ivan is very openly torture, because even torture is then mentioned. We go into the basement of the KGB. At least I assume it's the KGB, because that kind of stuff happened at the KGB's headquarters.
Even before it was the KGB.
Yeah, when it was GRU and yeah. Anyway, NVKD, whatever. Anyway, the KGB officers are beating the hell out of Ivan, saying, tell us what you know, tell us what you know. And Ivan is being a goddamn hero. He's refusing to talk. And finally, they start choking his ass out.
And then he goes into shock. But he won't talk. Ivan is a big damn hero in this movie. They end up like trying to they make up propaganda basically to try to influence his mind here at this point. It was right before that Sutan's one that came in play, because the superior,
the general
goes, you can't kill him, and the
yes,
the KGB person goes, are you sure about that?
Yeah,
that could be something that he's saying. And then the general pulls out Sutan's one and goes, this is what it will become.
Yeah, it got wrecked.
And this is where you see that it crystallizes.
It turned to ash inside these little capsules. That's what it looked like. Yeah, but
it's black and white, so you don't really.
One of the things that Ivan did say to the general in the first meeting was, if I am killed, this will become useless.
Yes.
And the general just kind of smiled and said, okay, whatever. That's what everybody says. But this is where the general's like, oh, he's right. We can't kill him. Yeah, because here's Sutan's. But yeah, he goes into shock. Like, Ivan goes into shock rather than opening up his mouth. So, big damn hero. He's still alive. But then we go to the hospital in LA where the professor is. Now, he's awake. And there's a State Department guy talking to him, and the State Department guy has the professor's weapon.
There's also a Dr. Carl Newhouse.
Yeah, Newhouse,
who comes in play later, but they're using him to try to open up this capsule and find out that he can't open up this capsule.
Yeah, and this guy is played by Friedrich von Liedber, who was born in Austria-Hungary back. Actually, it's modern-day Poland that he was born in.
He's playing a German at this point.
Yeah, Dr. Karl Newhouse. And he actually has an interesting arc in this movie as well, which is weird. Like, all these little side characters tend to have interesting things going on.
We find out later that he is a German that probably came over with
before the war.
paper. What is it called? Operation Paperclip?
No. He did not come over with Operation Paperclip. I think he came over before the war.
Okay, because
Anyway, so the professor is really refusing to cooperate with the State Department, saying, I don't know what it is. I don't know what's going on. I don't know how it's supposed to open, etc., etc.
He doesn't say how to open it, that he can't open it.
Yeah, he says there is no physical way of opening it. Because
he plays the Shakespeare card of lying.
Well, he's lying by telling the truth. Everything he says is the truth. He's just not telling the full truth. That's the thing. He's leaving out big chunks of information, which is fine. And it's because it comes across as that the professor won't lie if asked a direct question about something. If he's like, hey, can you open this, professor? He'd be like, yeah. That's what it comes across as, that he wouldn't actually be lying. So we have a scene where John is wandering around the racetrack. He's kind of been cooped up for too long. It's probably been another week that's actually passed. He's walking around. He's clearly thinking about this long game now of like why the alien has done this. Should we just destroy ourselves and get it over with? Should we move on? Should we allow the aliens to live with us or live here instead of us? Who's to say that we're the best choice?
He sits down in the theater, in the seats of the racetrack, and smokes a cigarette.
Yeah, that's where all this is. Like this big scene, Eve comes out and talks to him about it.
And you see Eve walking and comes to talk to him.
Yeah.
And they have a conversation about that they can't just keep hiding. This is too much. The information that Henry gave, the stuff that's behind the Iron Curtain.
Yes, that it's a little too important. And the thing is that there's been people that have been reported to be John in public
that has been
killed.
Assassinated.
Yes, and
there was assassination before this, attempt assassination.
That's after this.
Oh, that's after this.
Yep, Darlene making saying that a scene.
I have some confusion on my papers.
Well, no, I know that, but anyway, the it turns out that like since everyone has been hiding, all the governments of the world are basically looking for them, and since everyone knows that they have a weapon, the public is starting to panic, and anyone that even resembles them is starting to get questioned by their neighbors, to put it simply. So we then have a scene where Russian spies are sent into the United States to try to get at the professor and his weapon, to get like more of these weapons, or to like kidnap him so he can help them understand. The guards that are actually guarding the professor do their jobs. Like, they're competent at their jobs. Yeah, like the first guard lets them through because they have all the proper paperwork. But like the second guard is actually checking their license plate and calling it in and doing due diligence, and finds out that none of that information matches. So they're like, get in there. And yeah, the two Russian spies are trying to like kidnap the professor.
And both those guards get killed, don't they?
Not the guards, the agents, the spies get killed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, we know that things are bad. John and Eve kiss outside. Like it turns out that all this time that they've been spending together alone, together in a very small room, has meant that they've done actually a lot of talking. It is not physical. It does not come across as a physical thing because they actually enjoy talking to each other. There is chemistry because, I mean, let's be frank.
And it's kind of slowly ramping, which I like.
Yeah. Again, we're passing over tons of details here, folks. Like, even as long as we've been talking about this, we're passing over tons of details. Yeah, it does build slowly. Gene Barry, as an actor, has magnetism on screen. You have to admit, in every movie that we've seen him in,
she has the flashing eyes.
Yeah, Valerie French. I won't say that they have the best chemistry on screen that we've seen, but you understand why they're kind of slowly falling for each other. Okay, like not the best chemistry, but there is chemistry there. Okay, so
but they kiss and then they have to duck.
They have to duck from this Jeep going by, and they're like, okay, we have to take care of this. This is insane.
And she asked about when they come back up.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, do you want us to just with the guard? And he goes,
no way.
I need authority.
I need lots of authority to turn ourselves in, because if we turn ourselves into one person, that one person might be crazy and kill us. Because they have been hearing about this happening. So they end up actually doing something fairly smart and not stupid to turn themselves in. They set a fire at the racetrack with hay. So like all these the fire department comes out, a couple cops, and like the security guard comes out, and they just kind of walk out and say, John says, "Hello,
I'm John.
I'm Jonathan Clark. You might know me from such things as," yeah, he doesn't say that, but he's like, "Hi, I'm Jonathan Clark, and this is Eve Wingate. You guys are looking for us, right?" And everyone's just like, "Oh crap." It was actually a really funny scene. So, God, we need to like sum up a lot of the stuff that's happening. Like
but the next scene is the pentothal.
Oh yeah. Ivan back in Moscow gets shot up with sodium pentothal, and they start like showing him letters from his mother saying that he's a hero. Yeah, he's sitting there crying. Yeah, and he's been drugged to the nines, right? He's been tortured. He's slowly come out of shock because of all these other drugs. The man is clearly not in his right mind. Correct? Yes. The actor is doing this well, and they're manipulating him emotionally.
Yes.
I do not blame Ivan for finally cracking. I don't think anyone could stand up to the crap.
But then all the information comes pouring out.
Yeah. So he basically opens up opens up his weapon capsule.
Then we have the three arguing over the alien boxes.
Yeah.
With the U.S. military being there, right?
Yes. And
that makes it 12. There's still 12 days.
Yes. And I
that's
like
mentioned.
And I think it's Jonathan Clark that says, if we were a mature species, we would have returned to Earth and then all thrown it into the nearest sewer.
And then Jonathan goes, or the sea.
Yeah. I think it was Jonathan that said that, though. But anyway.
It was the German that said the first one. And Jonathan says, or into the sea.
At the Pentagon, the professor, John, and Eve talk about what's going on. Professor opens his box finally. And yes, he says that there's 12 days before this 27th day occurs. So yeah, we've already had more time. We've already had like over 2 weeks pass, right? The Soviets demand that the U.S. withdraw from Europe and Asia in 48 hours.
To continental U.S.
To the continental U.S. And otherwise, they'll use their weapons.
And at this time, do we have the two states?
Yeah.
That are not continental.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a bad word.
Well, and this is where I again paused the movie and I said this was a meaningless threat, because this is effectively the same kind of threat you use with nuclear weapons, like do this or otherwise I'll nuke you. Do you submit to that? Because remember that like at this point, the U.S. government has 2 sets of weapons themselves, and none of these people are actually in the continental United States anymore. They're put away from it because Dr. Carl Newhouse basically says we need to test one of these weapons to see what it does and how it works. We know that the radius occurs and that it's only supposed to work on humans. Let's see if this is true, if these are actually weapons.
That's so after this conversation.
Yeah, he ends up overdosing with gamma radiation. Like he's like, I'm going to die anyway. Test it on me. So they put him on like a boat. I am skipping around a little bit, but they put him on a boat. They put him out into the middle of the Southern Atlantic, and they put a ship right outside the detonation radius, and they launch one of these weapons by telling the coordinates exactly for this weapon to detonate at, and it disappears out of the person's hand. And it's the professor. It's one of the professor's weapons. And Dr. Carl Newhouse is on a life raft with all these animals, and he's like waving, and then he just disappears. And his clothes fall to the ground. Like
his jacket and that.
Yeah. And all the animals are perfectly fine. So it turns out, the alien wasn't lying, that these really are weapons.
The guy that plays Bichner or whatever, the professor, has to be convinced to open his thing because he doesn't want to kill.
Yes. So it's not just that he wills it open, it's that he has to want to open it. And his case doesn't open. He's like, because I don't want to use this weapon. And it's John that basically says, hey, dying of radiation sickness isn't a good way to go. And then the professor's thing opens, and I'm like, okay, dude, wow. Bless your heart.
So the next thing you see is newspapers flashing up
that the U.S. actually is
quitting
leaving
Europe, Mediterranean.
Yeah, and I'm actually a little shocked at that because again, the Soviets have to understand that the US has these weapons too. So I think that is one of the only one of the very few things that made me go what in this movie, because everything else is really set up well. There's no reason for the US to go. Like I could sure, we'll leave Europe, that'll save us money. As soon as you go over the border into NATO countries, we just launch one of our weapons at Moscow and everyone's dead regardless. Like, what kind of threat is it? You know, what you're doing is basically saving the U.S. money by making that threat us.
I think what the general was doing was trying to put all the military might of back into the continental U.S. so he could use the 3.
Yes, but again, this is such a blatant.
And obviously
move.
they have it because there's this.
There's whole fleets roaming around with all these troops that just haven't gone back to the United States. They're just sitting out in the Pacific and the Atlantic.
Okay, and then we get to where we know that there's 5 hours left.
Yeah, so yeah, there's only like 5 hours left. They realize that if the Soviets are going to use their captured weapons, they're going to use them right before the deadline occurs and these weapons become inert. So there isn't really a good chance of them having it used against them. Yeah. And I get, okay, fair enough.
So Breacher, the professor, I should just say the
Bechner, yeah.
Because I can't say the name
He
right.
realized that there's actually mathematical formulas on the outside of the capsule. And he hasn't really noticed that before. And he says, I need a full set. I've used one of my capsules on this test. I need to have your set, Jonathan, so I can like get clay and press out these indentations that are on the capsules out. And if I can translate it, maybe it's a message and we can understand this whole thing better. So yeah, it turns out that it is a full set of mathematical things. It is basically a message to an intelligent being that can translate all of this. But we don't really know exactly what it is yet.
He gets everybody out of the room and locks the door.
He's like, I need quiet. And that works to his end. So what happens is the Soviet general tries to launch, and he has like a big map up on the wall where he wants to detonate these 3 weapons over the continental United States, well, North America, and it would kill everything from Alaska down to Panama. Like every human being would be dead.
Canada would be gone.
Yeah. Almost all of Central America gone. The Caribbean gone.
All of North America.
All of North America,
except
and Central
for that
America.
That's up in the.
No, I mean there's like
the Hudson Bay,
way north of Hudson Bay. Yeah, like there'd be a couple people left up there, but anyway, he starts trying to launch it. Ivan's in the room because he had to, like, I guess Ivan's in the freaking room. I don't know why they want to have Ivan in the room.
Well, they have a guard on top of him.
He looks sickly, which is
sickly, and he's in like a wheelchair, I think.
No, I thought he was just sitting in a regular chair. It didn't matter what he was sitting in. But it turns out that as the general starts launching, I think he's launching towards the Texas point first, which is like the furthest south point that he wanted to launch at. And by the way, if you notice, remember the whole 3,000 mile radius thing? That isn't what they plotted on the map. They plotted circles on the map, but that's the weird projection map. So it would actually bulge out towards the poles. You can't put like circles like that on that kind of. Anyway, I know that's such a minor point, but I thought about that afterwards and I said, wait a second. Anyway, General starts like putting it, like speaking out the coordinates, like latitude 34 north by 16 minutes or whatever it is, and Ivan goes, F this. He like jumps off the chair with like his last remaining energy and like tackles the general.
And I do understand why he has Godfrey there, because Godfrey is supposed to be the hero to give this.
Who the hell are you talking about? Godfrey.
The reason why
Ivan Godofsky.
Godofsky.
Ivan.
Ivan is there because
Ivan's the big damn hero.
is a big damn
He
hero
is.
for doing this.
He charges the general, tackles him, and knocks the weapons out of his hands and over a balcony down into like the Kremlin below, like the Kremlin street below. And Ivan gets shot, right? I think he gets shot.
I don't know what happens to Ivan.
He gets
'cause
knocked to the
can't-
ground, and the general like screams, "Don't kill him, it'll make these worthless. I will go get the weapons and like guard him." He walks out. The general's going down to get the goddamn weapons. We go back to like this US ship out in the middle of nowhere, and the professor figures everything out, and he walks to the window with the weapons in his hand and starts saying coordinates.
After having pulling out a map.
Yeah, he plots everything out and he goes, okay. And he starts telling these things coordinates, and everyone outside, like John and Eve, they hear him and they go, "Oh my God, Professor, stop. We're not monsters. We can't do this." And they're pounding on the door, and this is like a bulkhead. So obviously it's not going to open under just people pounding on it, right? And he launches all 5 weapons. And you're like, okay, what
But
the
at
hell?
the
Hold on. Yeah, at the same time, the general is out on the street grabbing the weapons, and there's this high-pitched whine that starts happening.
And he goes to his knees.
He's like screaming and then falls over. And we're like, well, wait a second. So we go back to the ship, and the professor lets everybody in, and they're like, how could you? He goes, I didn't do anything. I used all the weapons. And, but they said, we're still here. And he goes, yeah, we're still here.
They said life and death.
We had a choice of who these could kill. And I made the proper choice. He basically said, we find out what that choice is in a little bit. The next scene is all at the UN. Yes. And it turns out that all of the people that were killed by this weapon were people that, and this is a little lame, a little bit. The only people that were killed, the professor did properly blanket the planet with these 5 weapons. The people were only those that did not love freedom and peace. That basically the professor, all he had to do was keep in his mind an image of the people that were harming humanity rather than helping humanity. So the Soviet general died. Theoretically, lots of people did. Basically, anybody
you end
that
up with the UN at the UN, and you see
there's celebrations at the UN.
This has got stock footage.
Yeah, this is stock footage from the UN, but it turns out that since everyone that is left honestly wants peace and harmony for mankind, that Earth has come together. Yes. And this is where I start getting I got a little teary.
And they've been transmitting all the
friendship transmissions
from all our radios and communication devices.
And remember, we already went to the 27 days, right? But Alien said 35 days, we have to invade Earth by the end of the 35 days. We'll know what your choice is by the end of the 27th, but whatever, right? So they've been making transmissions and there's been no response, okay? And so they invite Jonathan, Eve, and the professor, and they're sitting there, and there's this whole thing at the UN where they're making these wonderful speeches about humanity uniting, United Earth, and I raise my fist, United Earth from Star Trek, that they've decided that there are huge chunks of Earth that we can't use, and maybe the aliens can't with their high technology, and maybe we can all work together for a greater peace. And we're going to have the professor transmit a message of welcome before this 35-day deadline now ends. And the professor says, to the aliens that gave us the device, I'm Professor so-and-so, please come. We welcome you with open arms. Please. We want to be friends. We want to share our home with you. We will do whatever we can to help you in your time of need. Please respond within 15 seconds. And they're at the UN, and there's 15 seconds, and the alien comes on and says, thank you. Thank you. I accept your invitation. Our people accept your invitation, and we welcome Earth into the community of 30,000 worlds. And I'm like, oh my God. The whole thing was a test to see if we were a mature species, that we deserved to be there. That we wouldn't just kill ourselves and kill others. That we actually had a longer view on the universe, on ourselves. Like this God damn it. It's see, that's the part that I didn't get. I figured it was a test of some sort. I just didn't get that. Oh no, it is a first contact. This is a test to join the Federation. Effectively, this is it's a little bit of psi warfare, sure enough. But the fact is that it proved that humanity had grown up in a way.
And
like, yeah, the
those that
professor
haven't
did
grown
use
up,
these weapons, but he used it for like the greater good.
he used it to get rid of the
people that were holding humanity back. And by God, that hit me. Yeah, it gave me tears. I'll admit it. So what worked? Well, okay, we already know that we've constantly just praised this movie for a lot of the things that work. But like, what's your top thing that worked in this movie, Darlene? I always want to start with positives.
The little paying attention to the little details and having those little details out there.
Okay.
So it's a rewatchable.
I think my top one is the plot.
Well, that's
like just the
big
overall
plot.
story. Here's this alien coming down, grow up. I mean, in a way, it's sort of similar to Day the Earth Stood Still. Here's this alien coming down and saying, grow up or we'll destroy you. It's kind of the same in that way. But here's the thing, like, unlike in Day the Earth Stood Still, the aliens really are kind of aloof in this. The aliens aren't influencing Earth past that first contact.
Well, they influenced it with the transmission.
Sure. But it's like, hey, humanity, your choice is yours. Make it. And in A Day the Earth Stood Still, that's it. The choice is yours. Make it. And he leaves. In this, the whole story happens after that. Like the choices that humanity is making, the philosophies, the ideas of how we better grow.
And here's the question. They must have picked the people.
Yeah.
To balance the transmission for the bad. Because even Ivan did not want to use these weapons.
See, I think the aliens chose these 5 people because they wouldn't want to use them. I think the alien did weight the scales. Okay? Because like he explained, I don't think he lied at all in his explanation that they don't want to see the death of intelligence. Like intelligent species, they think it's abhorrent to kill intelligent species. So him giving these people, if he just randomly gave people these weapons, there would be a extreme likelihood that humanity would be wiped out. He chose those people because they wouldn't. And he wanted to prove a point. He wanted humanity to prove a point to the rest of the galaxy, these 30,000 inhabited worlds, that humanity was good at heart. Even though we had the bomb, we fought these wars, we hate each other, that
we've had, what did the professor say in the beginning to the alien? We've spent 5,000 years killing each other.
Yeah, how do you expect us to turn that around in 27 days? Like, the point is we can. We can just all choose not to do it. To be better people. This movie, I mean, the idea of this movie is freaking fantastic. That's like my top. If I had to choose another one, I think the acting of everybody in this is fantastic.
That's why the professor did what he did, was to get rid of the bad apples.
Yes, and you can still argue that the professor did something wrong. Because obviously he did murder, theoretically, lots of people. And his judgment, he was basically judge, jury, and executioner for it too.
Was it not dealing with something that is...
See, but it doesn't matter.
Spiritually wrong with the person.
No, because that denies free will. You could go to one of those people, like let's say the general, and say, "Hey, look, you're being a giant douchebag. If you use these weapons, you'll kill all of them, but they'll kill all of you. Earth will be destroyed. Everyone loses." And you know what? If the general's like, hey, you know what? I don't care. Everyone can die. Guess what? That's the right choice, that the general should be removed from the situation because he's not caring. But if the general made the choice of saying, you know what? You're right. I'll just wait this out. I can achieve my goals in a diplomatic way, or even just through like regular nonsense. Is it right that the professor made the choice that he did? I don't think it is. But
would we have
would
they have the peace without removing those?
No, they wouldn't. Is this an ends justify the means argument, or is this a it doesn't matter? The means is just as important as the ends. Like, the movie is making the argument that the ends justify the means, that the professor made the tough choice of murdering theoretically millions of people to ensure peace on Earth and Earth joining the galactic community. I think it might have you can argue either side of it, whether the professor was right or wrong. He likely saved Earth doing it because the general at that moment was trying to launch the weapons just to kill indiscriminately. So, but the professor didn't know that.
But he assumed it.
Assumptions make an ass out of you and me.
Yes, but they had that discussion about when would Russia do it.
Yeah, no, those those last few minute moments or whatever. But it again, I think the movie raises an interesting question, though, whether the professor was in the right or wrong. It's an ends justify the means or not kind of situation. I think it's going to make me think, is what I'm saying. Like, I absolutely love the ending. I still love the ending. I think it's amazing that like humanity gets to go into the Galactic Federation basically because they've proven that they're not just going to wipe themselves out. It's a bit of an uplifting end of the story. See, I think that while I'm talking about it, see, I'm slowing down talking, because I was thinking, what if the professor was a friend of the general, the Soviet general, and he decided freedom under his definition wasn't freedom under democracy and peace and love. Excuse me. It would have been a completely different situation, right? There'd be peace on Earth because everyone else would be dead except the Soviets. See, that's where it starts getting sticky, right? Again, it's the reason why the alien chose the people that he did. And that made a big difference. But it opens up that possibility. What if Ivan opened up his capsule, some Soviet scientist figured all this out with the 3 capsules, and then just used them for himself to wipe out all the democracies on Earth? There's peace on Earth, but it isn't the ending that we get.
It's a fascist.
Well, the bad guys, basically.
You cannot tell
But
me.
the point is that you would end up having almost the same ending, theoretically, because there's peace on Earth. We're not going to wipe ourselves out, but it's just not the same kind of peace and love.
Then the second thing comes in play.
You get the mirror universe.
Well, no, you get the Galactic Federation
Going, ooh, you guys are kind of dicks.
wiping them out.
Maybe. But remember, they have the philosophy of not killing intelligent life. They would have probably just left it for Earth to rot away.
And shot them out of space when they tried to leave.
Because they would probably assume that those people that were left would probably fragment after a while and get into their own petty squabbles, and there'd be a nuclear war anyway. They'd wipe out Earth, and Earth could be re-terraformed, theoretically. Because remember, they don't want to kill intelligent life. They don't want to see intelligent life go away, but they also don't want to interfere.
But they certainly don't want it in their neighborhood.
Yeah, they do. They have the Galactic Federation. They just don't want war in their neighborhood. I don't think they would actually shoot spacecraft out of the skies. They'd probably like interdict us in some way, shape, or form, like saying, "Oh, here you go. Yeah, you're building a spaceship. Goodbye." And like they just laser the spaceship before intelligent, before they get some cosmonaut into the capsule, like on the launch pad. Oh, we're gonna laser it. Boom, blows up. But that's all theoretical. Point is, movie's fantastic, right? What doesn't work?
I knew there was some things, but
a little bit of the science is bad.
The science was a little bit wonky, but then again, that might be him trying to explain it. And what they're doing is locking them in a capsule when they're in the ship, locking them in a time.
Like a stasis bubble or something like that. Yeah. No, it doesn't. It still doesn't make sense. Anyway, fine. It's them trying to talk about like how relativity is a thing. They're trying to explain that relativity is a thing. Fine. Whatever. Go with it.
We don't know what their technology is, and it might be just them
highly accelerated or something like that. Who knows? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's just that the way he explained it, I was like, no, that's not how that works. You got it backwards. That's the only thing I think doesn't really work. Like, honestly, this movie's fantastic. It's really, really well done.
Yes, where even the bit part things have a personality.
I think if we ask ourselves, what can a modern filmmaker take away from this? I think there's one thing besides saying, just watch this movie for God's sakes, and this is a good movie. I think it is, if you're going to make an intelligent movie based on a science fiction work, try to get the original author to write your screenplay, because that's what happened in this. They got the original author of the book to write the screenplay. So it came across as a very intelligent, well thought out screenplay, because it is a lot about philosophy. It isn't about there's science fiction in this. Obviously, there's these weird weapons that can just wipe out humanity, but it isn't much different from nuclear war either. What the whole point of it is. It's a nuclear war parable in a way. So try to get the person who actually understands the source material to write your movie / TV show. I'm glaring at another modern TV show that seemingly doesn't understand its source material. We won't mention it. Anyway, regardless, please watch this movie. You can find it anywhere. It's amazing. Correct?
Yes.
Like, this is a 9.5 out of 10. For me, it really is. It's that good. Darlene's just nodding on our audio podcast.
Well, I'm also thinking, and you
okay.
run my head into thing by making me.
What are you thinking then?
Well,
share your thoughts, Darlene.
I'm thinking that it's a great movie, especially for its time. Why can't we make something like this?
Yeah, I don't understand it either. It's a thought-provoking movie. I mean, there are movies that are made like this. It's just they're usually not big studio pictures. So we usually don't get to see them. Or they're dystopian-ish, thought-provoking movies that are just kind of sad. Like, I don't know.
That's what I don't like about the new ones stuff.
Anyway, please go out and see this, folks. We have spoken way too long about this film. It's almost an hour and a half long of an episode, but this is the 27th Day from 1957. Highly, highly, highly recommended. I'm Aaron.
I'm Darlene. Good night.
And keep watching the skies.
At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
Thanks for listening to this episode of This Week in Geek. Hungry for more? Check out our website at thisweekingeek.net. You can subscribe to the podcast, browse our Twitter and Instagram, and leave your thoughts on today's topics. If you'd like to give us some feedback, send us an email at feedback@thisweekingeek.net. Tune in next time, and remember,
lower your shields and surrender your listenership.
We would be honored
if you would join us.
Thank you for your cooperation. Good night.